So I'm going to dive into the bridge. Let's turn off the visualizer here. Dive into the bridge sim and drop another split, because I want to split out the road itself from the, so kind of the, if we take a look at this in smooth shaded, you can see we've kind of got these big flat pieces which will be fracturing up like a rock, similar to how you'd fracture up a rock or concrete, and then the rest will be metal. We'll be dealing with it in a different way. So yeah, unfortunately the name attribute and the shop material attribute aren't really helpful for doing that. Therefore we just have to do it you know, kind of in a different way. We can just use, so if you come here, click on this little arrow, press 9, and then we want to use the 3D connectivity. Click there, shift click there, and shift click on this guy, press enter, and that does it work? Yes, great. Press 9 there, drop a node down here, and call this out road. Always good to put an out just in case well, I know in fact we will need it later on. And we're going to start with the road now, actually, with fracturing the road. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to you know, you could do this with the material fracture node maybe if you like. I find it quite buggy, you know, the boolean don't, when I add edge noise to the fractures, you know, that I find it failing and you know, getting weird results from it. So I prefer to just build it myself by scattering a load of points and then copying a load of cutting geometry to those points. All right, so it starts off, we'll just put this down to a really low number like 10. Okay, just so we're going quickly. Let's template the road so that we can see what we're doing. I'm going to drop a copy to points now. When I find it, copy to points, there you are. So points in the right, grid, just a flat grid into the left. And then we can see, obviously orientation isn't that great. It's not going to give us very interesting fractures at the moment. So what we do is use an attribute randomize. Quick and easy way of doing this. Set this to normal. So we'll use the normals of the points coming in here to orient the geometry which is instanced onto these points. So it's kind of getting there, but you can see they're still kind of limited. So if we just change this to inside sphere, and there we go, that gives us a completely random orientation in 360 degrees. Okay, and what else do we want to do? So one thing I want to explain before we go on is it's really important with a boolean not to have geometry kind of cutting halfway through a piece of your geometry. So like this, no, we can't see it there. If I make this smaller, it'd be easier to see. Make these smaller, so don't worry about copying the scale. We're gonna, you know, change this again in a minute. So things like that, the geometry only going part way through, the cutting geometry only going part way through our, you know, the geometry that you want to cut. That's no good. That's going to cause there's going to be a problematic with our boolean. We want it to go all the way through in every direction. So what that means is that we need these grids. If there was a point right at the end, which there can be, and the grid is instanced onto that and orientated so that it goes this way, it means that we need grids which are at least twice the length of this road. Okay, so they need to be really, really big. So what I'm going to do is just make them super big, overly big, and then just after that use the road to trim them down so that they definitely don't, you know, we don't have any of these bits halfway cutting through. So make them super big, 100 by 100. Okay, you can see that's really, really big over the top, but that's fine. Give them a good bit of resolution. It seems like a lot at this scale, but when we zoom into the road, it's not a lot. In fact, it's not enough. We have to add more. Add a mountain just to give it some some scale. Again, these look small from this point of view, but from the point of view of the road, these will be our big shapes. Okay. So we're going to use the road to cut or kind of make a selection of these now, right? So I'm taking a peak, so up here, zoom in, and a peak will inflate. It gives the kind of sense of inflating a piece of geometry. It basically moves points along their own normals. And I'm going to peak this up quite a lot until there's no space inside the geometry, like something like that. Okay, I'm just going to copy values I used before, 0.14, and then I want to change this to a VDB from polygons. There they are. Okay, and then use this for a group. Let's just tidy this up a bit, put that in there like that, and this guy up here, drop a group. Okay, so our main geometry is this, and we want to use this to form our group. So whenever you're using a VDB, that only works with point groups for some reason, I'm not really sure. Keep in bounding regions, turn off this base group. I think you can leave that on, but it's just by habit I turn it off. We want bounding volume. Okay, so we're taking this volume, and that should generate that group. You can kind of see the edges of it there. We'll call it delete me. Well, we're not deleting the group actually, we're deleting what's not in the group. So we drop a delete. Okay, set this to point, go to delete me, delete non-selected, and then we have it. Doesn't look so spectacular now, but you know, it's procedural, so we'll be able to add in a lot more geometry. But you can see kind of what I'm getting at, where you know, we don't have any pieces here which kind of go halfway through our geometry. But we do have these kind of floating points, which is no good, so just drop a clean, and that should clean them up for us. Okay. Great, now I'm going to subdivide this again a couple of times. Let's get this closer to the kind of level of detail I want for our fracture. And then another mountain to give us some smaller detail. It's a good idea when you know to achieve kind of lifelike, believable results. Typically, when you're looking at noise, you're looking at it in stages, like big noise, smaller noise. You know, like maybe at least typically 3 layers of noise. So that's whether it's fracturing something, or you know, the disturbance in a volume, or you know, textures, things like that. You know, you don't want just kind of one scale, you want lots of different levels. So like I said, for this one we're going to a smaller scale, so I'm going to set this to 0.1, 0.1. You can see we're getting nice smaller details now, okay, on top of the bigger details that we've got there. Leave that turned on, and we'll be using this for a Boolean fracture in a moment. Before I do that, let's bump up this value to 100, so we got a load of geometry to cut our roads with. There we go. Okay, so you can see that's nice and densely packed now. So you know, this could take a bit of time, so before doing anything kind of that you expect to be heavy, like a Boolean fracture like this, good idea obviously just to save. Let's connect that up there. Actually, I'm going to cut that off. Change this to road, so that will be the name attributes will be prefixed with road, right? It's a good idea to, you know, give meaningful names to each of your pieces of geometry. So there'll be road, metal, cable, you know, whatever it is. So let's give this a moment to calculate, and then save that out. There we go, so that's all done, so we can see all that nice detail we've got there now. All these lovely little kind of sharp pieces, small pieces, big pieces I can see. We can also test that with a exploded view is quite handy. Checking this, let's do that, so there we go, so you can get a sense of how it's going to fracture. Okay, different scales. Obviously, if you want to add more detail, you can, you know, subdivide it more. You could add more, simply just add more points to the scatter. That will just give you more cutting planes, and for the actual detail in the cut itself, you can just add, subdivide it further. Work on the mountain node a bit more as well, whatever you like. I'm going to drop a file here, file cache, to save this out, as you know that some processes take a bit of time there. So save current frame, drop that in. You can get the constraints from here, but I'm not going to use them myself. Delete that exploded view. So check load from disk now before I forget. And let's just call this, we'll save it just into our geo folder, and we'll call it road fracture. Brilliant. Save to disk, and there we go, we've got it saved there. And save my scene.